Human organizations as we know them today are not going to last much longer. And that's because we've built them on a false premise. These organizations have been built on the premise that you and I are physical beings, and we're really not sensei. We're spiritual beings living in physical bodies, and we've been endowed with something called intellect, echt. And by learning to use the intellectual factors in our personality, we can access the higher side of our own nature and improve anything in our physical world. But to the average person, that doesn't really make a lot of sense, and it may not make a lot of sense to you, as I just said, Banchablad. What you're going to discover as we go along with this and continue to work with this idea is that it's going to make a lot of sense to you. Now, I found that when we begin to study ourselves, there are only 2 points of reference that we can go to. One is science, and the other is theology. There doesn't seem to be anywhere else to go. Confessionally, I've found that there are only 6 basic religions. Now, I spent quite a bit of time living and working in California. I think there's something like 4,000 religions in California, but everybody starts their own there because there's tax breaks, So, but you're still going to find that there's only 6 basic religions, and they all teach us essentially the same thing. They teach us that we're non-physical beings. They may use a different word, but the concept is the same. It's kind of weird. Most people don't even know much about their own religion, and yet they say mine is right and all the others are wrong, and they don't even know what the others are. I found that every single one of them has the truth inside of them. We're non-physical beings. You see, the truth is kind of like the center of the city. It doesn't really matter which way you approach it. When you get there, you're in the same place. Now, the other area that we might want to look at is science. Science tells you that you are energy. In fact, a DuPont scientist many years ago said that the electrons and atoms in your body contain a potential energy of over 11 million kilowatt-hour per pound. Do you know that there is enough potential energy locked up in this thing sitting there that we call a body to light up the entire continent of North America for almost a week? And then you'll hear people say, I have no energy. Hey, what a ridiculous statement. That's all we are. A mass of energy. Do you know that this thing that you live in vibrates? It glows. In fact, there is an aura of energy around your body. Those are the cells leaving your body. Your body changes at a rate of about 50,000 cells per second. And as the cells leave the body, new ones are created. And you can photograph the energy leaving the body. Kilian, back in the early 1930s, perfected a form of photography where he could take and photograph mass, and the energy rays coming out of the body would penetrate the camera, penetrate the film, and you would actually capture it on the film, and you would actually capture it on the film and photograph the density and the color of it. I imagine you're very familiar with this. That's you, honey. That's right. And, as the image in a person's mind changes, the vibration of their body changes, and the density and the color of this energy changes and changes dramatically. Do you know that you even have a mental faculty where you can begin to sense that energy coming off a person, and you can determine the mood that they're in very quickly? You can almost read what's going on inside a person. Now, as we study this, we're going to discover that this side and this side are actually connected. Think about this for a second. Do you see here on the lectern a glass of water? Now let's stop and think about this for a moment. We call that glass. It's actually energy. Because of the speed at which it's vibrating, we call it glass. We call this water. That's what it is. It's water, but it's actually also energy. In fact, the ring that's touching it is energy, and the finger that the ring is on is energy. Everything is energy. Everything is vibrating at a different speed. Stay with me here for a moment. What we're talking about here is an energy. Now, while the energy is in the cup of vibration that it's in that glass, we're going to call it water. And we call it water because it's vibrating in a physical or corporeal state. If you were to add heat to that energy that we call water, you wouldn't call it water anymore. So you would change the terminology that you would use. It would be the same energy, but it would be moving faster at a higher vibrational speed. So we would call it vapor, and we would call the energy vapor because it's not in a physical vibration. It has now moved into what we call an astral vibration. If we were to continue adding heat to that energy that we now call vapor, you would no longer call it vapor. You would call it air, ether, or gas. And that is because it is no longer in an astral vibration. It has now moved into what we call an etheric vibration. But at each level, it is the same energy. Now, as we look at this, we are going to let these lines represent levels of vibration, or as we more commonly call them, frequencies, asima. And you know, each frequency is connected to the one above and the one below. There is no line of demarcation where one ends and the other begins. See, each frequency is like the colors of a rainbow. As they fit together, there is no place where one color ends and the other begins. They are all joined together. Never again will you see that with what you call sight. Oh, sight is a physical sensory factor. You have to go to one of your higher faculties, and you develop this through understanding. You begin to understand. So you see, the part of us that we cannot see and the part that we can see is all the same. This is just the other side of the coin of this. Spirit always manifests through its polar opposite, the opposite. We have the ability right here to connect with this great power that I choose to call spirit. And we can connect with an intellect, and we can literally make this power transform into something that we call an idea. That idea must literally become something that we call results. You see, both science and theology clearly indicate that nothing is created or destroyed. All you can do is make it change.
You know,